This is episode number 32, Game of Inches. We are breaking down the NBA Finals. The Milwaukee Bucks have won the 2021 NBA Championship. I'll bring in Jake, man. Jake, we're just a few days out after they have won their championship. The celebration happened today, and their boys are enjoying it, man.
Yeah, man. It was a crazy game 6. Giannis, arguably one of the best closeout games ever. I don't know where you rank it amongst the greats, but it's definitely up there. Overall, I feel like I owe the Milwaukee Bucks a little bit of an apology. I know we haven't been on here in a bit, but I don't forget the comments that I make, and I had some harsh words. I had some harsh words for the Bucks, man. I wasn't too thrilled with how they play come playoff time. I wasn't too thrilled with how Giannis was come playoff time, and then Giannis got hurt. And everything was just against them, in my opinion. It was just going to be another disappointing look for the Milwaukee Bucks. And there was going to be another conversation about whether Giannis should still be there or he should have left when he had the chance. But he put all that to bed with this absolutely ridiculous game 6. And I'll give some other guys credit too, because obviously it's a team sport. Bobby Portis played really, really, really well. Brook Lopez down the stretch in the fourth quarter was literally looking like prime Brook Lopez. My guy was dropping floaters, three-pointers, dunks. Like, my guy was on one. And then, obviously, Chris Middleton in this playoff series, I think he channeled his inner Kobe or MJ, whatever you want to call it. My guy was just lights out, sniping game after game after game. And then, obviously, Drew Holiday didn't have the best offensive series, but I think in terms of defense, besides Giannis, he was the second most important player there. He was clamping down on Chris Paul. He was clamping down on D-Book. And you could see that as the series wore on, Chris Paul started to fade away. He was like, damn, this guy is like not going anywhere. He couldn't shake Drew off him. And I think ultimately that pressure that Drew brought disrupted Chris Paul enough that it disrupted the rhythm of the Suns. And that's ultimately what gave the Bucks the upper hand, because they both have superstars in Giannis and D-Book. They both have really good coaches. So to me, this series was pretty even. But I think just that edge of Drew Holiday putting that pressure on the backcourt of the Suns really made the difference.
What I loved about the NBA this year was it was really expect the unexpected. Over the past several years, how often were we seeing LeBron go to the finals, or it was the Warriors dominating? And I know the Warriors had some injuries this year, especially with Klay Thompson out, but just so many unexpected things happening. And to see a team go down 2-0 in the NBA Finals and win the next 4 games after that, I thought was super cool. The funny thing is I actually had a bet on this series to end in 6. And that was actually like after the first 2 games, Jake, or something like that. But I really didn't think it would go, it would be this team that would win it. I just, I figured it would end in 6 with the Suns winning. But unbelievable stuff. I think one thing I wanted to say was that I think in every sport, we're really starting to see that you got to go through the tough times, man, before you can get to that celebration. And we saw it with Ovechkin with the Washington Capitals in hockey. We saw it with Tampa Bay Lightning in hockey. We saw it with the Toronto Raptors in basketball. And here we are, the Milwaukee Bucks. They were irrelevant for years.
Yeah,
our very Raptors, went head-to-head against them for several years in the playoffs. So it's not like they just came out of nowhere. So the only thing is for the Suns, Chris Paul isn't getting any younger. We don't know his future, but D-Book is young, man. He's got a bright future, lots of time to get back there. And sometimes, after that second win for the Bucks, that's when I started to really click and just think to myself, like, sometimes when the going gets tough, like over the past few years, it's good for you and it almost like makes you tough. And that's kind of what I saw with the Bucks, man. They had to go through it, and we can't leave this out. Giannis hit his free throws, man. He was hitting free throws at the parade today. Good for him, man. I mean, yeah, just a historic performance, like you said. He got the 50-piece on the court, 50-piece nuggets in the drive-through. He had a great couple of days for him, man.
Yeah, honestly, it's like there's probably no better feeling in sports when you go through the trials and tribulations with a singular team. You've been at rock bottom, you've been all so close and you didn't get there. And then now, Giannis finally has a chance to, touch the Larry O'Brien trophy, be an NBA champion along with a 2-time MVP and a defensive player of the year. So for me, it's just an overall like good story. Like if there was ever like an NBA story that needed to happen, it was this, that you can win in a small market. You can win staying with your one singular team. It's just up to the front office of that organization to put you and the guys on your team in a position to win, regarding coaching staff, trainers, assistant coaches, the guys you surround the guys within the locker rooms, in terms of like, the 10, 11, 12 guys that don't really play at all throughout the regular season or the playoffs. They're there for basically not just bodies in practice, but they're also really good NBA players, but their bodies in practice, they're good locker room guys, they're good character guys. So it just goes to show that you just need to stick it out, like you said, and just kind of battle through those times and not take the easy road, because sometimes the easy road does pay off, and more often than not, it kind of does pay off. But we could just see this year where James Harden and Giannis had the beef. One guy stuck it out. The other guy went to Brooklyn and made a super team. And one guy's the NBA championship, and his name's Giannis, and the other guy is sitting at home, and his name's Harden.
And I thought it was a really classy way of winning. Like, I thought that everything was pretty well handled. You saw Giannis go and hug his family right away. All of his speeches have been pretty good, but he did bring up what you said. He did bring up, I could have gone somewhere. I could go to a super team. And I can't blame the guy for saying that. It was pretty much his only form of smack talk that he had after they won. So I can respect that. I thought that, the amount of time he mentioned his teammates, family, how he's just happy to be in the NBA. That's one thing I love. Like, anytime someone asks him, or you see some videos when he's younger, he's just like, man, I'm just happy to be like in the NBA, let alone like a finals champion. But yeah, I just had to mention that because it's true. Like, besides like that one thing, he was super classy, but you're right. He did mention the super team thing. He did mention how great it feels to win with the team that drafted you. And not a lot of guys can say that these days.
Definitely not in the NBA, man. The NBA is one of those leagues now where it's like, where can I either go to get paid the most, or where do I have the best shot to win? Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. The players drive that league. The players are that league. It's not like the NFL where the logos are the league. Like, these players do have ultimate control, and they do get to decide ultimately where their future lies a lot more than most other sports. So the fact Giannis didn't want to take the easy road, it just goes to show what kind of person he is. And like you said, all of his speeches he's made were classy. His trash talk, like, come on, man. Like, I know, like, we're calling it trash talk, and I know you know this too, but that's not trash talk.
No,
like, that's just, to me, that's just stating facts. Like,
exactly, yeah.
You might
I'm not even saying it's trash talk.
I know what you meant. Yeah. I mean, like, just for him, like that's his trash talk. And
exactly.
His trash talk is just stating facts. Like, I could have went and done this. Mm-hmm. Other players went and did this, and I'm the champ and they're not. And like, that's just facts. That's just how it is. But the one thing that I kind of want to bring up, and I don't want to like, bash on anybody, or because I know at the beginning, I know at the beginning of this, like at the beginning of the pod, I was very, I'm down to get at somebody, but I've relaxed a little bit, so we'll be nice about it. But I know DeAndre Ayton's a young guy, and it's his first final, it's his first playoff, but my God, did that guy wilt under the pressure? Like, geesh, man, like, didn't do anything. Like, he rebounded the ball kind of well, but man, like, couldn't play defense, couldn't put the ball in the bucket, like, just out there, just taking space. And the only reason I think he even played like at all in that series after the way he was playing was because the Suns knew they had nobody else to match up against Giannis. Like, it's just an Ayton matchup by default. They threw Jay Crowder at him. Obviously, Jay Crowder is not big enough to guard him. So, like, you're going to have to double team. And on the double teams, Giannis found out in this series that he can kick the ball, and his players are going to make those 3-pointers. So I just don't understand what Ayton was out there doing. It's like I don't want to. I know the moment's big, and I know it's easy to sit here and be like, well, I would have did this or I would have did that. But it's like, at some point you got to say to yourself, like, this guy's not going to get by me. Like, I'm just not letting it happen. Yeah. At some point I need to prove to myself that I can stop this guy. And it just, every time Giannis just put the ball on the deck, it was just see you later to the rim. Either it was a foul or it was an easy bucket. And that's the only complaint I'll have about the Suns. You know, the Suns played a good series, I thought, for the first 2 games. They were close in the 2 last games. You know, at certain points they were leading. Actually, I think they were leading in both games going into half. So it's just one of those things where, like, if that one thing might have been different, it could have been a different series.
And I like Ayton. I think his future is bright, but I agree. He's someone that we have to bring up. But a point that I wanted to bring up, and I'm not sure if you've seen this videos going around. It was either like 2 summers ago or 3 summers ago, in like an open gym practice with D Book, and he got doubled.
Yeah.
Did you see that? And he was he's like, no, we ain't doing double teams. Like, I get doubled enough in real games and stuff like that. And Joakim Noah, of all guys, it's like, yeah, we are. We're doing double teams. And the funny thing is, it's almost become like a meme, because like one of the things that hurt D Book the most in the finals were the double team. So that everyone's like, maybe you should have listened to Joakim Noah. And, you know, because he, you know, we look at the stats here. D Book was a -15. The only person that was worse than him was Mikal Bridges at -18. And like, you look in the crunch time, that was like 4 or 5 minutes to go. Booker's forcing up shots. Him and CP3 both couldn't hold on to the ball. Turnovers late in the game. D Book 19 points in a closeout game. Basketball is a little bit different because you can't have players that just go off like Giannis, and it's like more acceptable. But, you know, whenever we talk about like big games and stuff like that, I'm always like talking about a supporting cast. But there also is like the big time players make big time plays kind of argument. So you can't be dropping 45 in a game too. I'm not sure if that was when he did that, but like, you get what I'm saying. You have to save those. Like, those games have to come now, and that's why
you need to do them throughout. Like you need to keep that level consistent. So like your point exactly. Like, everybody, you know, when the Cavaliers won the playoffs or whatever, and Braun dropped like 50 in game 1 and they lost because of JR's stupidity. Yeah, everybody was like, "Damn, like, you know, he's not going to do that like every game, blah blah blah." And then like he ended up averaging, I think it was like 37 for the series or something. It was insane. He just went off, and like, you know, that's what they needed from D Book. Like, they needed that constant scoring, because CP3, well, he can score the ball. He is much, much, much more of a facilitator than he is a scorer of the ball. And then you look at the rest of the team, it's like, okay, well, Mikal Bridges is more of like a 3-and-D guy that's a little bit of a slasher. Jay Crowder, pretty much the same thing, 3-and-D guy, can slash a little bit. And then DeAndre Ayton just went missing in this series, and those are your 5 best players. It's like, well, who's going to score if D Book's not scoring? And to me, that just can't happen when you are the scoring option. Like, you can't have 19 points in a closeout game, like you said. Like, that's just not good enough. If you're going to lose, go down, lose, and shooting the ball. I don't care if you shoot the ball 30 times and you're 18-30 and you guys lose. At least you showed me, like, you know, I have the confidence and the belief in myself that I'm willing to take these shots, because I know that's what needs to happen for us to win. And it was kind of like him and CP3 both just got lost into like, well, are you going to take over, or am I going to take over? Or are you going to take over? And like, it was just this weird in between shit where just nobody decided that they were going to take control of that team and take control of that moment and try and push them over the hump.
And I thought that like the Suns would have to win this series as a perimeter basketball team. And the way they've done well in the past and in their other rounds was that if they weren't going to be a perimeter team, they were going to go to DeAndre inside, but they couldn't do that. So when you look at the box score for these guys, I'll pull the team stats. Both these teams, Jake, shot horribly from the outside. Well, it wasn't too bad. Let's go to 3-point percentage, 24% for actually the Suns, 22 for the Bucks. But 3-pointers, 6 for 25 for the Suns and 6 for 27 for the Bucks. So when you look at that, that's a lot of shots taken from beyond the arc. And you look at it and you're like, man, they would have loved to have a few of those back, or a better look at some of them. That's what's crazy, because like you said, DeAndre Ayton, we're putting pressure on him, but it's not like we're insulting him. It's more so we're just kind of pointing out the fact, because we know how great Giannis is, and it's just a shit matchup.
Yeah, and DeAndre Ayton is good too, and he's a beast. He just didn't have the bulk to kind of mess with Giannis. And I just had a question to ask you. Did you see the stat? I think it came out today, or maybe it was right after the game, that the Bucks are the worst shooting 3-point team since 2004 to win an NBA championship in the finals. So they shot like,
I didn't see it.
They shot like in the series, they shot like 26 or 27% from the 3-point line, and that's the worst 3-point percentage since 2004 to win the NBA Finals. Crazy. So that just goes to show that the Suns weren't doing what they were doing. The Suns were the second best 3-point team in the regular season, or third. They were I know they were in the top 5, at least for percentages. But that just all of a sudden, like, that's what they used to beat the Lakers. Like, the Lakers wanted to grind them out, get the ball in the paint, let's play the half court, and the Suns just kind of ran them out of the gym, and then also were just burying threes. Same thing in the next series, same thing against the Clippers. So the one thing that they really needed to do was just knock down that 3-point shot a little bit more and play a little bit more aggressive. I hope this isn't it for CP3. Like, it was like I said, I don't cheer for somebody that's not my team. I can't do it. I'm not gonna do it. We have a lot of Greek friends, you know that, and all the boys love Giannis, and I think Giannis is a great guy. I think he's really good for the league. I think he's, something different in the league that, you don't need to be like 6'3" and, shoot from 40 feet. Like, you could still be like 7 feet. You just might need to be a little bit more athletic and a little bit better on the ball, but you could still have that sort of player in the game. But like, part of me was just like, damn, if like CP3 doesn't win this, like, is he ever going to get back there? And like, he has a Hall of Fame legacy regardless, but how sweet would it be to see someone like that, like, finally get that ring and just be able to say, I'm an NBA champion. And it's just like, for me, it was like, damn, like, I don't know if CP3 is going to get back there, man. I don't know.
Well, what I think about that is, like, this year it would have been like, he would have been the vet, right? Like, he would have been that like big bro on the team.
Yeah.
But I think now, if he ever wins a championship, if he reaches that goal, it's with somebody else, like Braun, or like somebody else that's like older, been there already. So like, I thought it would have been a really cool year for him to win it, because like, obviously surrounded by Booker and like, great younger guys, but like, he would have been that like big bro of the team.
Yeah.
But if he ever wins a championship now, and it sounds like you agree with me, it's going to be on someone else's shoulders, not really as much his.
Yeah, and there's been some reports of him. He came out and said he's not retiring. So I take CP3 at his word that he's not going to retire.
He's pissed.
Yeah, he's definitely, and he's a competitive guy, right? That's one thing that people forget about CP3 is he's like a 1%er in terms of competitiveness. Like, that guy, we've seen him fight on the court before. We've seen him, skirmish. Like, he's always the first guy in the mix. He's the most competitive. He's always on the floor diving after the ball. He's making the hustle plays. So for him, it's probably a slap in the face to think that, because I lost to finals at this age, I'm just going to up and retire. Like, he probably wants to come back and win. And I just hope that somehow or some way he finds a way just to get on the Lakers. Just get on there, man. I don't even care.
But Jake, do you think that means something more to him? Like I said, that like, it's not going to be him? Like, or is it just about the ring now? Because like, if he goes to the Lakers, he's the sidekick. You know what I mean? Like, definitely. This would have been more like that. He was the kind of more like the man.
I 100% agree. I think during the moment, subconsciously, that might have been there, where it's like, damn, like, if we win this, like, I'm like, this is me, baby. Like, I didn't click up or do anything. I went with, the young guys, the guys that nobody wanted to go play with. I went there, and I did this. And I brought us to the finals, and we would have won the finals if they did, right? He would have been saying, I won the finals. We won the finals, right? But at this point, like, what is he, like 37 now or 38? Like, after having all of that realization and going through that, I think the next thought process is like, damn, like, how do I get back there? Like I can't go out like this. And to me, I think it's the Lakers, man. You get CP3 there with Braun and AD. You got CP3 who can knock down a 3-point shot. He's not the best 3-point shooter, but it takes the ball out of Braun's hands. Like, Braun doesn't need to have the ball every time they go up the floor, because right now that's pretty much just what it's been, is every time the Lakers are in the half court, Braun has the ball in his hands at least to start.
And it's hard to get Braun's trust, and he trusts CP3. So I think that's huge too, because you've seen him walk up to people and be like, give me the ball. But he won't do that to CP3. He'll trust him.
Yeah, exactly. And they need that facilitator. And I think I don't know what type of guy CP3 is to be like, nah, I don't want to do that, because he very well could say that. He's like, nah, I don't want to do that. Like, I just took the Suns. I want to go back with them, whatever, right?
Yeah.
You don't know
So
what's
what
going
happens to
through
the
his mind.
Suns now? What happens to the Suns
I
if he
don't,
leaves? Because do they
I,
like obviously they went to the finals, but like where do they
yeah,
go?
I personally think like, I think there's going to be regression, man. Like, I don't think it's going to be like the Bucks where it's like, all right, now we're on to the next stage, and then now we're on to the next stage, and we won. Like, I think the big nucleus of that team was CP3, right? And I think D Book having a year he had was amazing. You know, Jay Crowder shot the ball lights out. DeAndre Ayton played lights out. Like, it's a lot to ask those guys to come back again in a stacked Western Conference and be like, all right, it's finals or nothing. You can't. I don't think you could do that to them, right?
That's the thing. Like I mean, at his point in his career, though, it's not offensive to say that. That's the thing that, like, I think, like, especially in the NBA, people do that all the time. Like, at his point in his career, it's not offensive to be like, you know what I mean? Because like, I usually don't like that stuff, like hopping around. But like, as far as it goes now for CP3, it doesn't bother me. Just and maybe I'm hypocritical with that, but like, I just think that like at this point, he's kind of like paid his dues with all kinds of different teams.
Oh
Where
yeah,
now it's like, go get that man a ring. You know what I mean? Where like,
definitely.
I hate when guys are in like their fifth year in the NBA and they're like, I want to sign with the Lakers. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
CP3 knows what it's like. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like he. But let's talk a little more about the Bucks. I feel like we're talking about the losing team a lot. Let's go over. I mean, we talked about Giannis, 16 for 25 free throws. Though, like I said, 17 of 19. You dropped 50 points exactly on the dot. Um, Going over the scoring, I mean, we talked about him, but we got to talk about Middleton and kind of what he brought to the floor. 6 for 13 field goals. He was 1 for 4 from 3-point range, but the one he hit was actually a big shot late in the
yeah.
game. Just
Hit them when they count.
quiet 4 for 4 from free throws, 17 points. He was a plus 11 on the game. Drew Holiday, 4 of 19, 12 points. But, you know, PJ Tucker, this is a guy that we've talked about before together. 0 for 1 field goal, 0 for 1 3-pointers, 36 minutes played. What a heart and soul that guy is. I'm pretty sure he's probably still drunk, man. Champagne. Yeah, I don't know if you saw it today. Champagne, he was like insane. It was kind of funny. He had it all over his face. But he's a guy that deserves some credit. And, you know, 0 points, probably averaged like 2 points in the playoffs, man. But he played like 38 minutes a game.
Dude, do you know how strong-minded of a person you have to be to know you're going to go run at basketball court up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down for 36 minutes, and you're only going to put up one shot?
Yeah.
Like, you're only going to put up one shot. Like, that's the mental fortitude right there to know your role. Like, all right, I don't shoot the ball. Like, I play defense and I set screens and I get boards. That's about it. That's all I'm doing.
You ever see that graphic of him in the Western Conference with the Rockets? And it was like all the centers in the West. And it was like him next to all these like 7-footers.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, how you going to do my guy PJ like that?
And like, that's the thing, right? Is like, he's such a good player for what, like, his role, like, he's one of the best at what he does. Like, there's not many guys that size that could take on, you know, like any center in the NBA, or any, like most power forwards in the NBA at this point. Like, obviously the big man's kind of getting phased out, but like PJ Tucker's like 6'7", like that's a small forward.
Yeah.
Or he's like 6'8", whatever he is. Like, that's a small forward going up against centers and power forwards, and he's handling his own. And you are right, he definitely does deserve some credit. But yeah, him and Drew, I would say definitely, and Giannis were the anchor for the defensive end. They definitely put the clamps on the boys. For me, it's going to be like, what's next? Like, what's next for the Bucks? Like, do we think they're coming back like this again? Because the Nets are going to be healthy. We know the Raptors are trying to make some moves. I don't know what kind of moves we're going to make, if they're going to make us competitive or not. We know the 76ers are definitely going to be trying to make moves. Ben Simmons, I think, out of there. So it's going to be interesting in the Eastern Conference. The Nets are going to be back at full strength. The Knicks coming off some playoff experience. They're looking to revamp their roster. The East is just as exciting as the West. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Bucks are able to maintain, go forward, and keep plugging away, and next season get back to that same spot.
That's always the big thing. I mean, after you win, you celebrate, but right away, media members have their fun and try and get their clicks and their hits with the celebration. And then they start asking those tough questions. What are you going to do to get back to that same spot that you're in right now? One thing that's kind of interesting from a betting standpoint, to bring up some odds, pretty much 9 times out of 10, the team that wins the Stanley Cup or the NBA Finals are the betting favorites for the next season. The Bucks aren't even close to that. I think they're somewhere like 8-1 or 6-1. Seriously, it's actually crazy. Like the Brooklyn Nets are plus 250 right now to win the NBA championship. How crazy is that, man? Especially with a healthy Clay and the Warriors coming back to like their selves. It's pretty crazy to see, man. Like people are saying they wouldn't even take plus 250 next year going into the playoffs, let alone during a whole season. You don't know about injuries. It's super interesting to look at, like the makeup. And like you said, the Eastern Conference, I think it's like at its most competitive it's been since you and I were in like grade 6, grade 7. Like honestly, man,
maybe
like it's
even like earlier, bro. Like maybe even like the last time, like I honestly, the last time I can remember like the East being this crazy would be like even before like KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen, because that was still only like 2 or 3 teams, right? Like I'm thinking like almost all the way back to like 2004, 2005, 2006 with like the Detroit Pistons, and then like the Indiana Pacers were still really good back then. The 76ers had Allen Iverson. They were crazy. The Boston Celtics were just kind of starting to bubble a little bit. They weren't too good. But we haven't seen the East like this in a very long time. And it's exciting because I'm not going to lie, not every night I want to stay up till 2 o'clock to watch the best game of the evening, which up until I would say the last like 2 years would be the Western Conference games. Like
definitely
really the only games that we would be getting hyped for would be the Raptors, just because that's our team. But now when the Boston Celtics are playing the 76ers, we're like, damn, probably going to be a pretty good game. We see the Miami Heat play the Toronto Raptors. Damn, that's probably going to be a pretty good game. Like there's so many good teams in the East now, and it's so exciting that there's no, I don't know how much parity there is in the NBA, but it feels like now more than ever, there's much, much, much more parity in the league.
It's sweet to see. And I think teams like I wouldn't say like it's all about loyalty anymore, because like there still are people flopping around, but they're starting to build on other teams. They're realizing like, all right, if you guys are all going to this team, like when Lillard said he's going to go to the Knicks, I was like, yeah, go to the Knicks. Like, let's go. Like, let's spread that talent around. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love to see him go to the Knicks or something like that. And like you mentioned the Raptors, man, and like I gotta say this, we're gonna have some Wanderers players on the podcast soon enough, man. But the Raptors, like they're just a team. Like there's nothing like watching your favorite team. And yesterday I'm watching the Wanderers play, and it felt like I was watching the Montreal Canadiens in the Stanley Cup. Like honestly, like having a favorite team, having a buddy on a team, like it's just something different than just watching a competitive game. Like there could be a game that's like 102 to 100 with 2 minutes to go. I'm not going to get that same feeling as I'm going to get to like watching my favorite team play. And that's what's always cool about the Raptors. But to now also start seeing some games that excite me in the East that don't include my favorite team are really exciting, because before it was like, of course this guy's a great player, I'll tune in, but my interest level and as our generation grows and even more, our attention spans, that you and I always talk about it, bro. You have like 3 monitors up, you're on your phone. Like me too, like sometimes I tell my girlfriend, I'm like, yeah, like, you can have the TV because I'm watching it like 1 minute out of 10. You know what I mean? Like it's on, but I'm barely even watching it. You know what I mean? So it's nice to see some competitiveness. But I wanted to say before we wrap things up soon enough, I wanted to just touch on what you said at the beginning of the podcast about how to close out a game, because that was a tweet that I put out that I thought was like, it's so incredible, man. Like one team couldn't make a shot and one team couldn't miss a shot. It's just as simple as that. And also I wanted to say about people that always talk about scoring in the NBA, like people that played the defensive role of saying like, no, players are just way more talented now. Why don't we scroll down all the lists of the games over the past 2 weeks and look at what the scores have been in the big games? Because I think you look at these games and they've all been pretty low scoring compared to what we saw in the regular season. And what that just tells me is they're just trying more. They're using more of the shot clock. The plan is a lot more strategic. It's less ISO ball. It's less, less transition basketball, but also just better defense. Like, would you agree with that? Like, people are always saying like the scoring is up because of the talent. I think a little bit it is, of course, but it's also up because of the lack of defense. People save their energy for the fourth quarter for offense.
Honestly, I think now more than ever that statement's so true because of how the NBA cracked down on load management. Like, I hate load management, but like clearly the players know their bodies well enough that they think 82 games is too long for the average player, or not the average player, but the superstar players, the guy that are logging anywhere from 32 to 36, 37 minutes a night.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot for them. So I think now more than ever, like, definitely, but it's like, I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough.
Like, you just can't compare generations. Like, people always love to compare to like MJ and stuff like that, but like there was way more spacing. The physicality was there, but it was like a different type of physicality. Like, I think that there was a lot more on-ball physicality in the NBA back then, and there's a lot more off-ball physicality in the NBA now. Would you agree with that?
I would say I don't know too much about the off-ball. I would definitely say on-ball there's more, but the other thing I would say too is like the rules have been geared towards offensive players in every sport. Like, every sport wants more goals or more points or more touchdowns, whatever. You see the rules in the NFL, they're cracking down on helmet hits, late hits, hits to below the knee for the quarterback or below the waist, landing on the quarterback, when you could touch the wide receivers. Same thing with the NBA. The rip through, obviously they're getting rid of next year, but that thing was going wild the last 3 years. If somebody anywhere in your vicinity, if you just rip your hands through there, foul. Like, MLB, they tried to do the pitch clock. They're trying to do the runners on second and extra innings. Like, that's all anybody wants to do for their sport, is just try to find a way to make it more entertaining. But personally, I think it's a combination. Like, it's a combination of players understanding that I need to save my best basketball for the playoffs, but also understand that they need to somehow like not make it look so bad like they're not trying. Like, you know what I mean? So like, there's definitely
conserve your energy, but play some D.
There's definitely plays in like the regular season where like you can look at that play and be like, if that's in the playoffs, like 6,000,000%, that's not happening. Like, that guy's not getting to the rim like that. That's just how it is. And that's how it's geared now, because guys need more rest. And also the guys are more talented. So if you have more talented guys with guys trying to conserve energy on defense in the regular season, there's just obviously going to be more points. But come playoff time, you have nothing to conserve. Every game, you got to dump that full gas tank. And if you're not, your team's probably going to get sent home. And that's what I think we saw in this Bucks series and Suns series, is everybody decided I got nothing left to hang on to energy for. So I'm just going to give my all. I'm going to bust my ass. And we saw the Bucks prevail. They buckled down on defense. They did the things that they needed to do. And I can't remember exactly what they averaged the Suns points to, but it was like low hundreds, which is like really good for the Suns, because the Suns were one of the most explosive scoring teams in the NBA this season. So it just goes to show, come playoff time, defense still matters, man. Like,
definitely.
It doesn't just go away, or you can't just rely on somebody scoring or ISO ball. You need players to do their jobs and fill roles. And 9 times out of 10, the team that plays the best defensively is going to win.
And I think it's cool because, like, you look at it, like you mentioned, like when the time that people choose to step up and play defense, like, we know they're capable of doing it. It's just a matter of like conserving energy and stuff like that. Quick shout out here to Elias, our buddy. Defense wins championships. He says, hey, he's not lying. You look at a lot of really successful teams, and across all sports, everybody wants to talk about this big play on offense that somebody made, or a huge dunk, or a free kick somebody had in soccer. But defense wins, and a lot of great teams, they win it defensively.
Exactly. And somebody told me this, and it obviously probably came from somewhere famous, because they weren't creative enough to think about this themselves. They said to me,
we won't drop their name now.
No, that's why I said somebody, because I knew exactly where I was going. But they said, if you're a defender in any sport, if you go unnoticed, you probably had a really good game. Maybe football's a little different because you could do like pass deflections and interceptions, fumble recoveries. It's a little bit different. But in the NHL, like if you don't get noticed, you probably had a really good game. In the NBA, if you don't get noticed on the defensive end of the floor, you probably had your guy on clamps. Like it's just one of those things where like it's just not naturally ingrained into the casual sports fan's mind that like those plays mean just as much as the ball going into the hoop.
Yeah, and that's what's honestly made me fall in love with soccer. Like I just like all other people that have not really gotten into soccer, and I was surrounded by it growing up, all of you guys being soccer fans and stuff, but like that's what's made me just appreciate a sport like that, is that I can love a 1-0 game now. It can stress me out and I can be mad. There could have been 10 goals, but I can really appreciate it. Look at the NHL, Tampa Bay, all of their closeout games, most of them were shutouts. And you really find out who the real fans of the teams are. Like you said, fans want to see home runs. They want to see, goals in soccer. They want to see everything. But you'll really start seeing who the real fans are of the sport once you start seeing these low-scoring games and people are getting super excited. But I love that quote. I've heard that quote too. And it's true, especially in the junior levels where we'll have to get Willie Pavlov back on closer to the Moosehead season and talking some Q with us. But especially in like lower like amateur, I think it's huge as well. Like that's why like the scouts, from what I've heard, like they don't want footage of like highlights or like great plays someone's done. They just want like raw footage of them just out there doing their thing. Because if they go like unnoticed and like nobody's like scoring on them and stuff like that, then that's all people really want, is like someone that like, there's a lot of defensemen out there in the NHL that I don't even know their name. Like, or I can't like, I'll know who they are if I see it on paper, but like I can't list every team's defenseman, and they're on there for a reason. It's because they're stay-at-home guys, and let's be honest, like I could probably list way more offensive defensemen than stay-at-home guys. That's just the truth, to be honest with you, because you just hear their name more in the broadcast.
Yeah, definitely, man, definitely. And I think the NBA, like Elias again in the chat, has a really good point.
We'll bring that up for him. Bring that up on the.
So just for those who aren't watching this that are listening, he said the NBA is an exponentially better product playoff time because of the effort top to bottom. And that's true. And that's something we just talked about, is come playoff time, playoff basketball feels so much like, I don't want to say higher or more intense than some other sports, is because there is a noticeable like level change top to bottom in terms of effort. And I think, hockey is one of those sports where you always kind of have to give 100%. Football, just for safety reasons, you always have to give 100% or you might die. The NBA, like you can take plays off, and come playoff time in the NBA, nobody takes plays off. And that's actually what you start to notice, is like, okay, like Giannis played 42 minutes tonight, and that guy literally ran for fucking 42 minutes tonight. Like there was no plays off. And like same thing with Braun. Like people give Braun crap because he might not give the most energy on the defensive end come play or in the regular season. But you can see in the playoffs, like the guy has one of the most famous blocks ever, and it was literally a chase down full court block. Like you can't tell me that these guys don't care or don't play defense. It's just they play defense kind of when it matters, which is the start of the playoffs. Yeah,
I was listening to a Barstool podcast there, and I think they had I can't remember who it was, but it was like, who's the star on Milwaukee Brewers? Oh, Yelich. Yeah. They had Yelich on, and they were like, Big Cat goes, do you really give a shit for 162 games? he just asked him straight face, and I was really curious how he was going to answer that, because like I was like, it's obviously public image, like you don't want to come across too bad. And he's just like, like some games mean more than others, and it's just true. Like I think that in the NBA, players get called out for it a lot more because it's a lot more of like a stop and start sport. Whereas like a sport like soccer, for example, if you're a defender, you can't be just like, you can't decide to just chill. But like if you're like an NBA player and you like play on the outside in the perimeter, you can kind of like be like, yeah, like I'm going to take this play off and maybe not like crash for the board if but maybe I would have in the, in the playoffs and stuff like that. But it kind of cracked me up in baseball though, because there's like so many games, which is why I loved it last year, because during like the COVID restrictions, because there was like less games. But it was kind of a funny question. Like he just straight like, and I love raw stuff like that. He was just like, he's like, do you care? do you really care about every game? And he's just like, some mean more than others.
Told you the baseball season. I said it on the podcast, bro. The baseball season is 2 months at the very beginning, and then the start of the playoffs. That's the baseball season. In between, I don't know really what goes on. I'm paying attention, but you best believe I'm not watching every game. I'm probably not watching most games. It's just there's just too many. I can't pay attention for 162 games.
Well, a lot of people don't tune in
happen
until after the trade deadline. Like it's like they'll watch like
September
the first month and a half, and then
August,
the trade
September
deadline.
Baseball.
Yeah,
that's like me too, man. See, you know my viewing habits when it comes to baseball.
But yeah, man, I'm happy for Milwaukee. I think they deserved it. I think they earned it. Bright future for D Book. I think both Jake and I really do hope that CP3 finds his championship, but the Suns come up short. Shout out to Ox. They came up a little bit short. Ox is a diehard Suns fan. Everybody else was kind of adopting them as their team. Ox actually is a Suns fan. Look, I think it's just a great story with Giannis, where he came from, taking care of his family, bringing them over, signs with the team that drafted him. I'm happy for the Bucks, man. They're 2021 NBA champions.
Yeah, and just before we get out of here, obviously, just want to reiterate the same message that it's dope that Giannis won. We got a lot of Greek friends, so big just for the Greek community in general. There's not, I don't want to say there's not too many sports highlights, but I would say this is up there. I won't say it's up there, but it's pretty close to the 04 Greece team at the Euros. So I know this is going to be something like in Greece that's going to be all over the Greek news forever, not forever, but forever. And it's a big deal. So let's treat it as such that it's nice to see, the NBA's quote unquote, like I would say first, like head of the NBA in terms of players, be an international player, win an NBA championship. Like Giannis is by far, I would say, one of the most popular players in the league. He might not be the most, but I would say he's definitely top 2 or 3. He's just so easy to like. You got to respect his game. He's confident in the things that he did. And just before we go, I will say the one thing that I'll say about Giannis that Ben Simmons needs to understand is, do you see last game when they won? Giannis hit, I think, 2 threes. They left him wide open, but he didn't hesitate.
Yeah.
He didn't hesitate. He was like, you're going to disrespect me, and I believe in myself enough that I'm going to put this up there. I'm just going to put it up there. You work on it. You believe in yourself. It'll go in. It'll go in eventually. You got to start trying. Ben Simmons needs to look at Giannis and be like, this is how I need to progress my game. Mm-hmm. I need to become better at this, and this, and that's what I need to do. And then you're going to be an NBA championship. You're going to win an NBA championship. But just before we get out of here to wrap up with the Bucks, congratulations. Chris Middleton, absolute beast. Drew Holiday, the 5 first-round pick man that got traded for 4 of 19 in the final game. He's lucky they won. 4 of 19 in the final game is worth 5 first-round picks in the NBA. let that sink in.
Yeah.
Draft picks mean nothing in the NBA. But, yeah, shout out the Bucks. Good win. Let's see next year what happens when everybody's back healthy with G-State, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Nets, the Raptors, the 76ers, the Heat. It's going to be interesting, man. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm already excited for next year.
I can't wait for next year as well. For all of you guys out there listening or watching on YouTube, Periscope, or Facebook, make sure you guys are well aware of our golf tournament taking place at Avon Valley, Jake's home course. We're filling up. We're getting a lot of signups. Make sure you guys check out that competition. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great tournament. We have lots of great sponsorships still pouring in. We got a few new ones today. So make sure you guys sign up. The link is across our social media. You can check it out in our Instagram as well. And just thanks a lot for watching, guys.
Shout out Elias Mina.